I'm fucking 42. Like, I should know who I am by now. I feel like just the last couple of years, I've really got comfortable with being myself in front of the camera, and mostly through social media, like YouTube and TikTok.
I really do relate to that.
The 2020 pandemic lockdowns seemed to intensify what was already a growing trend across the social media landscape: nostalgia for early aughts pop culture and media. Holly Madison is an icon of a golden era of reality TV due to her starring role on the reality series Girls Next Door, which famously followed the goings-ons of the Playboy mansion. Girls Next Door was a notable precursor to Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which is why it's no surprise that the Kardashian colloquium community has shown a special interest in Holly's influence on pop culture. From the start, Holly has been a self-styled starlet, and she isn't just a figure of some fabled past. She established a presence across multiple mediums over the course of her creative, enduring career, from stage to books to the creation of a beloved space on TikTok. We were so excited to sit down with a true self-made woman whose first-hand experiences in the ever-evolving new media landscape has resulted in nothing less than true expertise.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We've been fans for literally since we were like preteens.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And actually, I'm kind of curious, we can start there maybe.
Yeah.
What is it like hearing stuff like that? Because you kind of are an icon through incarnations of media.
I don't even know where to start with how weird that is. I mean, in a way, to me, it feels like another lifetime, almost like I'm remembering a past life or something when I think about that, because it feels so far removed. And also, like, I hear that a lot, like, oh my God, I grew up watching you, but I don't hear a lot about how that affected people. Like Lana Rhoades, who was in the adult film industry, she tweeted something about how like Girls Next Door was one of the things that made the adult industry look glamorous and eventually led to her going into porn. And it's just like crazy.
The influence of it.
Yeah.
I don't remember really, I should have done more pondering before we met of what it felt like as preteens watching it, but I can say, rewatching some of the show more recently, I was really moved by your sensitivity and your earnestness and your like how seriously you took the institution that it was, like the research you did.
Yeah.
I really admired that and I related to it. I thought
thanks.
it was cool. Yeah. And like I think that that's like a really strong thing to be on a reality show with cameras, and it certainly felt like you were bringing that value system you have of deep dives and really caring.
In a way, on that show, I was so not giving much of myself.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that ended up kind of coming through organically. Yeah. But I remember when we first started it, I knew it would be a good opportunity, especially since I was already like ensconced in that system. I'm like, okay, this is the way to make this whole thing like the best it can be for me. So I knew it was a good opportunity, but I was also super scared of it because I also wasn't comfortable in the situation I was in. And I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna like expose this to the world. So I tried to be so plain and so boring and like offer nothing in the beginning because I thought, you know, nobody can really criticize me if I'm just bland, which, spoiler alert, they will still criticize you.
Yeah.
But I held back so much. Like I feel like it took at least like 3 or 4 seasons before I think anybody started seeing anything I was even interested in or into.
Yeah, so that kind of like self-preservation wall was up.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like I was so, and also like being in that situation, being scared that if I say the wrong thing, I'll get in trouble. So it was just very, like I was very zipped up.
And that can become like a second voice. Like there's that like you're gonna get in trouble thing that's like so self-regulating and can be really corrosive after a while. Okay, so let's start from the top. Could you walk me through the creation of Holly Madison? Like even naming yourself, like what was that like?
Well, when I was in college, I was a theater student and I wanted to be an actress, and I just wanted to change my last name because my real last name is Cullen, and this was before Twilight, so nobody knew how to pronounce it. They were always like Cullens. And I just, like I wanted to keep like my family private, because this was even before social media.
Yeah.
So that was another reason I wanted to change my name, was just to keep like everybody private, keep where I came from private. I just kind of wanted to start totally new. And I just picked that last name because I thought nobody would ever misspell it or mispronounce it. And it sounded okay with Holly, so.
Yeah, to me, there's like a real intrinsic glamour to it. I don't know if it's the cadence or the way it's like Holly, like the syllables, but I like what
that's
it
what I kind
brings.
of like too. It's kind of like old Hollywood-ish.
That's been your name now for a long time. Like, do you feel it? Is it yours? Do you feel that ownership of it? Like, are you Holly Madison now?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But then sometimes, like one time, one of my kids was like, "Is your name Holly Madison?" And I don't even know where they heard that. And I was like, "Yeah. And what else?" So there's also like a big weight and a lot of baggage that comes with it, just from what other people know. But I mean, I have always, ever since I changed my name, I felt like that was my name and it fit me.
No, it's kind of that whole question of like, what's in a name? Like with my like kind of alter egos, when people are confused and questioning it, then you're like, wait, who am I? Like, am I MJ Corey? Am I Michelle? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
I have a Postmates alter ego. Like I have a fake name I use for like anything, any delivery.
That's a good idea.
And I love that name. Like if I had another kid, I'd give her that name.
It's cool when you like love the name.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a really smart idea for safety too.
Yeah.
So you find the name, you name yourself, there's the empowerment in that. And then what happened? I know that you started in Portland, which is really cool to find out because I love the Pacific Northwest.
I didn't appreciate it when I was there for sure, but I mean, it's definitely like when I've gone back, I can see the beauty now.
Okay, so there's a dream to get out. That's also got very much like an iconic old school narrative.
Yeah, we used to vacation in Southern California every once in a while when I was a kid, and all I wanted was to live in LA.
You felt like a soul connection kind of?
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't know anybody there, so the way I got down here was transferring colleges. I went to Loyola Marymount, but I was trying to go to college and trying to audition and trying to make enough money to make ends meet, and ended up kind of failing at all of it just because I was trying to do so many things to keep my grades up, to keep my scholarship, and it was just like a mess.
Yeah.
So eventually I decided, well, I can go back to college anytime, but I'm gonna try and like do whatever in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, and take a risk and go for it.
Yeah, because unfortunately, and I hope it's changing now, but unfortunately, like the type of things I wanted to do, like you can't do when you were older, or at least that's how it was back then.
Yeah, oh yeah, back then there was a very clear framework, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the Playboy Mansion, I used to see all the memos come in when they would review like the candidates for Playmates, and they would always say, she's 28, if they thought somebody was, like 28 was like the death mark. Like every once in a while they would have a Playmate who was older than that, but it was pretty rare. And if somebody was 28, they would always note that, like, she's 28, like
an underlying kind of like a stamp.
And I wonder even how much that affected me, like spending like my early 20s constantly hearing like, you're kind of done by 28.
We were talking when we were watching it too about the kind of like phases of time that a figure like Hugh would have, where it's like watching things change, but women really aren't allowed that access to like seeing how engaging with changing media.
Yeah.
Where it's like then you kind of expire and then you're like wherever you are. Okay, so there was the dream of LA. What were when you moved to LA and you were balancing all these things? What was that vision? What was the hope?
I thought, I would love to be in movies. I would love to host a TV show. I'd love to be some kind of presenter on TV. I'd love to be a Playmate. And I saw being a Playmate as like a stepping stone to those other things, because I mean, when you look at it now, there were hundreds and hundreds of Playmates, but only like a few of them like made it big in the entertainment industry. But when I was growing up, it was like all about Pamela Anderson and Anna Nicole Smith and Jenny McCarthy. So it kind of seemed like it was this stepping stone that like led you to this bigger career. But of course, when you look at the overarching thing and you're like, there's 12 Playmates a year and Playboy's been around for 50 years, like how many of them have made it? Not very many.
Yeah.
But that wasn't my impression at the time.
Was it sort of like that blind confidence that sometimes can be an intuition about a certain destiny of like, maybe it really could be me? Or was it like, I'm just gonna avail myself to the numbers game? Or did it feel like there was like a path for you there?
I had a feeling like if I could just get in front of the cameras and they could do the hair and makeup and the lighting and everything, then I could look like those women. Back then, if you wanted to present yourself that way and look that way, you had to do it that way. Like now, there's Photoshop apps that anyone can use. Whereas back then, Photoshop was like a legitimate skill that you had to sit and learn and took time.
Yeah.
Now, everybody has their own, phones and cameras with remotes and ring lights, and they can take their own pictures. That was not the case back then. Even get down to the fact that there was no YouTube with makeup tutorials back then. No one knew how to do their makeup.
Yes.
And a few years later, like after I was already in Playboy, there was this woman named Alexis Vogel who did like Pamela Anderson's makeup, and she sold these kits on TV. You would see the infomercial and you would get like a DVD teaching you how to do the makeup, and you'd get all the makeup.
Wow.
That was how you could learn back then. So like nobody knew how to do their hair and makeup. Yeah. Nobody had the equipment to take good photos of themselves. Like you didn't have the outlet on social media. There were no Photoshop apps that could help you.
Wow.
So if you wanted to present yourself as like, oh, look, you know, I'm so sexy or whatever, sounds so stupid.
No,
but
totally.
I think a lot of us are there at some point where we want to look like that or want to do that or think that would be glamorous. You had to do it through somebody else's. And there was, unfortunately, when I was there was a casting couch involved. And now like you can do it yourself, and you can, you know, if you're lucky, you can catch on and become known and be like an Instagram model and make your own career. So it's really in people's own hands now, but back then it was not in any way.
That is such an interesting point. So there was a schism almost between the rest of the world and then this like kind of glamorous world of like creation, production, and it was like, once I'm in there, it will be done to me.
Yeah.
But like now there is that empowerment. It's been democratized in that way that people can learn and make it theirs. That
Absolutely.
is fascinating.
And it's easy.
Yeah, totally.
Anybody can make themselves look like whatever they want online.
Okay, so now we're at Playboy. We're kind of curious about the reality TV era. Turns out my Instagram following is like really into you. There's a highlights if you ever want to check it out. Like I said, what are your thoughts on Holly Madison? Lots of really exciting stuff. And someone pointed out that Girls Next Door like directly predates Kardashians. Mm-hmm. So you guys kind of did lay that foundation. So what was it like to be on these scenes on TV and be just around during that time?
It was really interesting because when the idea of a reality show came up, what was already existing was like the Osbournes. That was kind of how Hef presented it to us. There was the Osbournes, there was the Simple Life, and of course Paris was just like the archetype of what it meant to be successful in the reality TV genre. So I really looked up to her. And our show was picked up by E, and at the time E was a really small cable network. They had like the Anna Nicole Smith show had been like their first real hit. And at the time we went on, they were still showing like just videos of Howard Stern interviews. Like it wasn't a big network at all. And our show really helped that network grow. And then that's when they brought on Ryan Seacrest and the Kardashians and everything like that.
The kind of structure of the show, which I realized when we kind of revisited it, it really was like laying groundwork for Kardashians. There was a real multimedia exploration where like the 80th birthday, the showing of the party, like the kind of creation of the mystique around Playboy, like letting people into it. This might have been after the 80th, or maybe it wasn't. It was when the older Playmates came. So that whole like tension of like nostalgia in the past, but then kind of bringing it back into the present of the brand, all of that was just really, really watchable. And it felt like a real immersion into the world. So being on the other side of that, creating those scenes and kind of those moments, I guess it's an abstract question, but what is it like to be on the other side of making that?
I mean, for me, it was really strange and probably not what it would be for anybody else because I had no control over the situation and I was already living in this situation that was very cult-like that I'd been in for like 3 years and it kind of turned into this miserable experience, but an experience I felt like I was kind of stuck in. I was like, I can't leave until I like build a life for myself outside because I'd seen so many women leave and kind of go into these dark places. It was weird how like everything kind of aligned when I moved in to make me scared to leave. So when the reality show came along, I knew it would be a good opportunity. I had no control over it. They didn't pay us for the first half of the season. They just thought we would just do it for free because you're there. And,
oh my God.
And they really treated us like children. Like we were just like Hef's kids and we were expected to work because we were family or something like that. It was really weird. So I wasn't doing a reality show the way like a Paris and Nicole or an Anna Nicole Smith would have been approached as a sentient human being who has rights and let's negotiate. It was just, we were just kind of brought on and I knew it would be a good opportunity, but I didn't think it would be a hit. I thought people were gonna laugh at us. I thought the best thing I could get out of it was, oh, he might wanna put us in the magazine now because we're kind of famous. Because like Playboy's threshold for what was considered famous or like a celebrity for the cover was really low. But I'm like, oh, well, if we're on TV for a season, like maybe we'll finally get to be in the magazine. So that was like the big thing I thought I was gonna get out of it.
I can imagine how that would be sort of the thinking there. It's like now it's kind of more entrenched or elevated. And that reminds me of actually in the Kardashian episode of Kim posing for Playboy, there was a lot of emphasis from Kris on Kim's going to be in the celebrity issue. And this is before Kim was like, I think fully accepted or validated as a celebrity. And so there was that Playboy celebrity acceptance. And you were in that episode.
Right?
What was that like?
I worked at the studio at the time. And I think they kind of wanted me to come through and like say a few words just because our show was on the same network. And at the time I was working at the studio on my show, but I didn't work on the celebrity pictorials. I only directed the Playmate of the Month pictorials. So I wouldn't have been involved in Kim's pictorial, but I guess they just thought that's what kind of seemed to make sense on the show. And it was like a crossover episode because the Kardashians were new at the time, and they thought it would make sense to kind of like work it in with other things they had on the network.
Yeah.
So I just kind of dropped in and said hi, and she was really nice, and Chris was really fun. She was just so funny. She was just like having fun while she was there, having fun with the whole thing. I remember she like hid in my office for a minute. You could tell they were having fun with it.
That like family essence that people love about them so much.
That's one thing I really envy about the Kardashians is they get to experience that with their family.
Yeah.
I got to experience it with like one best friend, which was cool. Yeah. One person I had a lot of tension with, and like a dude who didn't treat me very good. So that was like...
No, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's so hard. Yeah, absolutely. And then there were a lot of cameos. It was the three of you kind of in different movies. I remember Entourage, there was a cameo.
Yeah, we did an episode of Entourage, like Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes.
We were in Scary Movie 4. It was just random stuff, but it was fun.
Yeah, and there's kind of like a crossover power there where there's an excitement, and I had developed an attachment or some sort of parasocial camaraderie with these people, and now I get to see them in these other mediums, these other shows. There's something exciting about that.
Yeah, it's exciting for sure.
And did you feel that kind of being in on the set of a different thing, like they're gonna love it, they're gonna love me, like in this kind of thing, like we're here? Because it was fun to see you guys in Entourage.
I knew it would be something different for the show and something fun. And I was always like super grateful to like have the opportunity and like be on these big shows, even if it was just for this little tiny part.
Yeah, but do you know what I'm kind of saying? That there's like a freshness to like seeing a world that you're kind of immersed in as a viewer, and then you get to kind of see them in another world of a show.
It's almost like finally introducing your high school best friend to like your college best friend.
Exactly.
It's something like that.
Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah, new
chemistry.
chemistries.
Yeah, it was weird stepping into it because I was already in kind of like this personal life situation that wasn't great. But each season it got better. Like each season I saw how to make the best out of it, and we got to do more things. And it was funny because you see like on reality TV now, like on the Kardashians, like they have all their ancillary businesses and they can promote it on the show and through their social media. But when I would do things on Girls Next Door, like if I wanted to do like a jewelry line or, you know, do this project or that project, like I put it on the show, not because I thought it would be good promotion, but because that was the only way I could do it. Like Hef would have said, no, you can't do that. But if I came to him like, oh, this is for the show, this is content for the show, then it was okay.
It's like, this is for the story. The show is like a channel for those products, and the emphasis really, the importance is put on the products.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you knew that and you saw it, but you had to kind of pitch it that way to get it there at all.
100%.
Wow, there was so much control there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We have a little note here. If you're not allowed to say it, just wink. But how real is reality TV really?
I always say it's loosely based on reality.
Yeah.
Like they would sit down with us and ask, what are you guys doing over the next 6 months? And then they would kind of like work a plot line over those things. But you know, you don't have cameras on you 24/7 to catch every spontaneous moment. So a lot of things have to be acted out. Like I remember seeing online, like the Kardashians got caught like shooting something at a soundstage. It was like, I don't know who it was. It could have been like Chris and Kim in a car, and like somebody caught them and like outed them. But how else are you gonna get the story? Like the cameras aren't around for every conversation. So if you want a cohesive story for the audience, you have to recreate those sometimes.
That makes total
More
sense.
often than not, actually.
Yeah, and that's where reality TV is really underrated, I think, culturally, where these are our modern myths. These are our modern stories. And so there is gonna be a creation of them too.
It felt like you were doing an improvisational sitcom. You know, it didn't necessarily feel that fly on the wall to me.
And what was it like being in that headspace? And I'm curious, as someone that like has never had experience in performance, but you were a theater major.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what was it like using those, like bringing those skills to the test?
I don't know that I really brought that much from being a theater major into reality TV, just because I was so just like zipped up and controlled those first few seasons because I was so terrified about how people were going to perceive me. I mean, I think I definitely recognized that they needed drama and that they might play off of drama a little bit. Like I knew going into it that they were going to play off the fact that like I would rather be the only girl living at the mansion, and I kind of like the other girls, but I kind of want them out too. And I was fine playing into that a little bit.
Little Bo Peep.
Yeah.
Right? I think we had a question about that. Just like what like how did that happen? And you seem to enjoy like those kind of like nostalgic archetypal characters. Like what was that like? To, like
Yeah.
So the show I did in Vegas, it was called Peepshow. It was done by Jerry Mitchell, a huge Broadway director, and the whole cast came from Broadway, the opening cast. And it was just this amazing, like big budget, burlesque, like very sparkly show.
Yeah.
And it was fairy tale themed. It was everything I love. And I played a character where you see a movie at the beginning and she's supposed to be like a career woman who has no time for love and she falls asleep and she has this dream. So my character was like the Little Bo Peep character, and I'm taken through all these vignettes where you have like sexy versions of the other fairy tale characters, you know, doing their burlesque number or whatever. And then by the end, like I meet a guy and I'm happy.
Yeah, that old
but I'm
school
like,
classic.
but it's more like an it's not just like meet a guy and you're happy. It's more like an empowering, like step into your own like sexuality type story. But
Yeah.
I love that show. It was so much fun. And it was the last show of its kind to ever open in Las Vegas. Like there are no more big budget burlesque shows at all. And I just feel super lucky to have been a part of that.
The fairy tales and the love of burlesque and these archetypal, these fables, like what speaks to you about these stories, these mediums?
I mean, I just love like just the beauty and the fun and the sexuality of burlesque. One thing that really attracted me to it was just like the control of image, because the first burlesque person who caught my attention was Dita Von Teese. And I remember the first time I learned who she was, it wasn't even through a performance. It was, I was taking pictures to like send to Playboy because they wanted pictures so they could put me on the party list. And the photographer was showing me this book. So I'm flipping through this and every girl looks the same. It's the same like cookie cutter, blonde, big boob playmate. Like you might see a brunette here and there. You might see a woman of color here and there, but mostly it was like the same thing. But then I saw this one woman who had like pale skin and long black hair, and she's wearing this corset that looks like it's from the 19th century, and she kind of looks kind of like vampire goth vibe. All it would say at the bottom was like the name of the woman. There's no article or anything to go along with it. And everybody had like these names like Mandy Smith or like whatever, you know, just these like average names. And her name was Dita Von Teese. And you just know when somebody looks like that and dresses like that, and that's their name, that was completely created by her. And that was so fascinating to me.
That is so, no, she's a really fascinating figure. There's a lot of that iconic sort of self-creation narrative with her too.
Yeah, it was like the one person in the magazine where I thought, wow, she had complete control of whatever they did.
And you remember those moments when like you're paging through something or looking at something and something strikes you that you feel that real inspiration.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's such a feeling. Let's talk about Vegas. Vegas is so fascinating.
Yeah, I love Las Vegas. From the second I moved there, I just fell in love with it. And I came at a really interesting time. It was at the end of 2008, so we just had like the housing crisis and that recession. So Vegas was empty.
Wow.
So I moved there and I just kind of felt like, it was kind of this weird feeling, almost like everything's open just for you.
Yes.
And it's such like a hospitality town. I just felt so welcomed and I just fell in love with it right away. And I still live there part-time, like I'm half and half there in LA.
I'm curious, just like, because that was right after the Playboy stuff, like what headspace were you in and why did you choose Vegas to go to next after all that?
So one thing I really wanted to do on Girls Next Door, because that was my only outlet to do anything, is I was obsessed with burlesque. I was a huge fan of like Dita Von Teese and the Pussycat Dolls back before they were a pop group. They used to have this really cute burlesque show at the Roxy on Sunset. It was super cute. And I was talking to a show I loved in Vegas. It was called Crazy Horse Paris. It was at the MGM. Right around that time, that was when I started to really get disillusioned with Playboy and really kind of see what was going on. Like my eyes were really open to like who's really in charge here and who's really pulling the strings and who's really manipulating. So I was in Vegas, you know, talking to the people about doing the show. I met another guy. I decided to leave. But right when I fell out of that relationship, another opportunity came along to do a show that was like a bigger budget, huge show that wanted to keep me on, pay me a lot more money. But in the end, just happily, it worked out for me.
That's great.
And I did Dancing with the Stars, and that Dancing with the Stars 10 years ago was so huge, and the publicity you could generate from being on that, like it could really relaunch or build a career. It was crazy.
Wow.
Because I know that show's still around and it's still, people love it. But back then, it was just crazy how much publicity somebody got just from being on Dancing with the Stars. It was nuts.
There's something about Dancing with the Stars, and it's not a deep dive I've ever really done, but I do feel like it's also, there's a weird kind of nostalgia to it too. There's something about like the competition and music and like performance. I don't know.
The themes and the costumes.
Yes.
Like that was one of the things that really attracted me is I just wanted those costumes.
Yeah.
And you would go in, and it was something that reminded me of like how people describe like the old Hollywood studio systems.
Yeah.
You'd go in and you'd see the designer and he'd come up with something that like fit your dance, and you'd get that outfit like 2 days later. It was cool.
That's exactly what I was picturing. Like there's like an old school essence to it somehow.
100%.
And you enjoy Dancing with the Stars?
Yeah, it was so much fun.
I mean, it sounds like kind of just you being you and being authentic in these different mediums is naturally creating its own arc.
Yeah, I feel like it is too, and I don't know what that is. But even for me, like, I don't think I'm neurotypical. I always had a really hard time connecting with people. You know, in the Playboy years, I always felt super afraid to be myself. Like I was always gonna get in trouble or be judged or be talked about on the message boards or something like that. And I feel like even though like I'm fucking 42, like I should know who I am by now, I feel like just the last couple of years, I've really got comfortable with being myself in front of the camera, and mostly through social media, like YouTube and TikTok and whatever.
I really do relate to that. I feel like I've always had a hard time connecting with people too, and I think that's why I like to intellectualize stuff. It's a way to like bridge that connection and be on that level, but it's safe. And social media has been a weird way. It's in some ways it's like brings up a lot of anxiety, and it's like the bigger it gets, I don't know, it can be anxious. But also it's done something to confidence. I don't know if it makes me feel more connected to my body as I like talk and express or what, but I do sense that too.
Yeah, and there's something about TikTok in particular that I feel like caters to that. I don't know what it is. And there's something about YouTube as well. Like I've been throwing up videos on YouTube for the past year, and I have a TV show I'm working on now. It's a reality show, but it's formatted.
Cool.
But I found when I first started doing things for that show, like when I would do the sizzle, I'd sit in my interview chair and I'd be mic'd up and I'd look at the camera and I would automatically go back into Girls Next Door mode. And it's like, I don't know why, like I haven't done a show like that in over 10 years, but it's just like built into my muscle memory. And I would watch the footage back and I'd be like, what the fuck am I doing? Why can't I just be like, I'm talking to my camera on YouTube where I'm totally being myself. So I make myself still do these YouTube videos because I don't want to get further into this show and be like a robot.
You're hitting on something that's really true. I guess I will put my therapist hat on for a sec. It's somatically entrenched. So you had that muscle memory for so many years at Playboy, and it was really like Pavlovian. Probably you saw the camera and were in that mode, and you were in that place in your life.
And just being like stiff in the chair with your mic, like you're always supposed to be like this and don't move, or you have your flyaway hair on the green screen, and it kicks me back into that mode, and I don't want to be in that mode. Like I want to connect with people the way I look into my phone and talk and rant on a YouTube video.
Exactly. So now with you doing it now, it's a corrective experience. So you want to kind of like be like, okay, when I'm in my YouTube mode, I like how I feel. Let me like work that into my muscle memory now. That is a healing thing. That's like you doing self-healing for real.
For sure.
That's so interesting.
It's crazy.
It's cool you tapped into that so that you know that's your through way to getting more in that space more often, more readily.
Yeah, it was really I have all these happy accidents that like lead on to like other career things.
Yes.
But like when we went into lockdown last year, I was like, okay, I'm bored. Like my kids were at their dad's house. Like I couldn't even get to them for a couple of days. I was like, what am I gonna do? So I started a TikTok and I started a YouTube. And then I started to notice how much more myself I was on camera. And then when this other show opportunity came along, I could correct that.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have been able to do that had I hadn't had that social media experience.
It was that transitional thing. So that brings us kind of to your book. Well, first of all, we loved your title, Down the Rabbit Hole is brilliant. That's just great. It kind of calls to mind your attraction to what we've observed of like iconography, great fables, stories.
The name for the book just was one of those things that felt so obvious to me. Obviously, rabbit hole correlates with like the Playboy bunny and just it's my whole journey. It's me going into a situation thinking, I can handle this. I know what this is. This is going to be a great adventure. And then it turned out to be so much darker and so much deeper and so much more nuanced than I ever thought it would be. So it's just like the perfect title for the story.
With writing a book and making memoir, that is like looking at your life in a new kind of way. What was that process like? What was the like life afterwards like?
When I first started talking with my agents about doing a book, at first I was going to do kind of like a fictionalized version of it, kind of like what Lauren Conrad did with The Hills. And it was interesting because while I was thinking about that and in that process, I got to a place in my life where I started to get really frustrated with how people interacted with me in public when it had to do with Playboy. Like I would go out and I would be like with my husband and people would come up and be like, so how's Hef? Like that's not fucking awkward.
Right.
Or they'd be like, how's Kendra? And the thing that was awkward about both of those questions was I wasn't on good terms with either of them.
Yeah.
But I would always say nice things. I'd be like, oh, they're great, you know, just to A, kind of shut the conversation down, and B, just because I thought that was like the nice thing to do.
Yeah.
But it was never like the same consideration from them.
Yes.
So that started to make me angry, and I just started to feel like I was living a lie, because literally every single day somebody would ask me about those years and I would have to lie about it. And it gets to a point where that starts to like make you sick inside. And I just started to feel like, you know what, I just need to let it all out and just tell my story exactly the way it was, and like not even care what anybody thinks.
Yeah, no, there's like a freedom in that, and finally asserting it. And I do feel like books as a medium are somehow not the best, but a really like natural go-to to do that. There's definitely, I feel like people kind of set the story or the record straight through a book. What was it like? So afterwards, was there a sense of release, catharsis? What was it like after the book?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I was relieved. Like nobody came up to me anymore and asked how Hef was. You know, everybody knew. For so many years, I was expected to be a cheerleader for this company that I had nothing to do with anymore. And I just wanted to kind of wipe that clean and just be truthful about, you know, here's the good things that came out of it, but here's everything else.
Yes, exactly. And I think it was kind of also, in a way, a reckoning about reality TV, where it really drove home for people, there's more than what you see.
100%.
Yeah.
And some people are so protective of that. Like they want to believe everything is real, and they get mad at you when you say it's not. They get angry. It's like, sorry.
It's like, instead, like, here's an option to have a multimedia experience of it and piece together the full truth.
It's like they almost feel like they were tricked for seeing something on TV. And they shouldn't feel that way, because what they're seeing is just like a story version of one section of your life. Oh, you tricked me, even though I was never in control of what came out on Girls Next Door. It's like they feel tricked.
Yeah, they want to have lived in that one reality, and it's too challenging to have to like reset their minds to more complicated reality.
Yeah.
I guess what I want to say also is it sounds like there was catharsis after the publishing of the books, and Vegas was a healing place for you too. It sounds like it was where you got to experience more control on your image, your projects, your creative expression, finally, after your experiences in Playboy.
Yeah, when I went to Las Vegas, it felt like a very safe place for me. It felt like, when you think of Vegas, you think it's the most artificial place in the world, but the people there are very, I always say it's like living in a big city in a small town at the same time. It feels a lot more real than LA in some ways.
Yes.
You know, I think it's just in Vegas, everybody knows what they're selling, and they know they're selling hospitality, and they know they're selling suspended disbelief, and they know they're selling an experience, but they're real people at the end of the day.
Yes.
And in LA, people get really caught up. And I'm not saying all people in LA, of course, but there's a strong contingent of people who have completely merged that with who they are.
Yeah.
And I could even say I was even kind of like that for a while, just out of like a defense mechanism.
Totally, survival.
Yeah, I feel like people in LA kind of don't know the difference sometimes.
The real and the hyper real collapse.
Bullshit, but no bullshit.
Exactly.
That's the city in a nutshell.
So finally, one thing I've observed, I don't know if you have too, but there's this real nostalgia on social media for exactly like the early 2000s. There's a real love of that right now. I think with Gen Z. What do you see of it, especially being kind of an icon at that time too? I think a lot of like your followers are kind of like, they want to know you because there's that fascination. Like, what do you see of the nostalgia on social media?
It's so weird to see that nostalgia, because on one hand, I can see how appealing it is, because everything was so fluffy in that decade. When you're looking at that certain strata of pop culture, it's just like fluff. But there was such a dark side to it. And I think that's getting exposed too, with like the Paris Hilton documentary and like Britney and Lindsay. Everybody who's kind of in that category has a really dark story behind it. The juxtaposition of like the aesthetic literally being the opposite of what people were probably feeling when they were at the height of that moment. And I think that's so interesting, and it gives people a lot to chew on.
So let's talk about Disney. What do you love about Disney?
For me, it represents moments in my childhood where my whole family got along and everybody was in a good mood, whether it was like my dad taking me to see a Disney movie or us vacationing in Disneyland. It was like everybody put any like tension or grumpiness or any like fights we had, like that was all out the door. So I am completely programmed to walk into a Disney park and like be okay and like all is right with the world, because that was how my family worked.
Which Disney princess are you?
Elsa. I really connect to feeling like I had to stay like hidden most of my life and like hiding my true self and like hiding behind closed doors, and also being somebody who's perceived as somebody who's very like cold and emotionless and like doesn't emote a lot.
Yeah.
So I really connect to that character.
Who are your favorite people on social media?
You. I love you. I love Bailey Sarian on YouTube. I love Trisha Paytas so much.
Yeah.
I just want to give her a hug. And there's an astrologer on TikTok and YouTube. She goes by the Divine Venus. I love her stuff. Benny Drama.
Oh, yeah.
Benny Skinner. He's effective on Instagram. He's the one person I can think of who will post a video on his Instagram feed, and it's fucking funny, and you get it. He's a unique example of someone who's really good at connecting on Instagram. Those are probably my favorites. It's harder when I'm trying to think of like who I like on Instagram, it's harder to connect with people on Instagram or feel like I don't feel very connected with people I don't know on Instagram.
Your experiences of like each platform and like which one do you feel the most you on, and which one do you kind of, what's your experience on each one?
Like TikTok, IG, YouTube, Twitter, those different. It sounds like TikTok, but maybe there's a secret.
Yeah, I love TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah.
I feel like I can completely be myself on those platforms. Twitter, I'm just kind of over. And I get a lot of toxicity on Twitter. That's where I get the most toxicity. I feel like I probably have like everyone blocked. I feel like if I were gonna be stupid enough to like search my name, it would be all the worst stuff. Instagram is interesting. I feel like I'm still really connected to Instagram because that's the one most of my friends are connected to. Like not a lot of my friends are on TikTok at all. Instagram's more like just makes you feel like shit.
That is the consistent thing we've been hearing in every interview.
Totally.
Yeah.
For those who are just joining us, we're making Holly Madison's mom's cookies.
Oh, yeah. It was really cool for me as like a cookie aficionado to see that she has a chocolate oat cookie recipe. That's my favorite kind of cookie. Chocolate chip oatmeal cookies. Some texture, crispy, gooey.
They have the whole package.
It just like further validates my sense that I can identify with Holly in a lot of ways.
That's the moral of this episode. That's what I want you to walk away with. They're like, oh, you know what? I think Holly and Michelle are pretty similar.
Let's get into it, guys.
Alright, baby.
We nailed it.
We couldn't have done better.
So wait, what do we do first? Oh wait, we should put this here next to this, and then it's like we're talking to both. Yeah. So, jeez, can you get another thing to take a picture of that? Wow, we're hilarious.
It's on bake.
Okay, so.
Yeah, we did it.
You've started this recipe 12 times, they said. Oh my god, no, this has been recording for 48 minutes. We need a large bowl, we need a stand mixer. Holly's mom would have wanted there to be a mixer.
Are you one of those people that has to follow a recipe exact?
Yes.
Really?
Well, no, I don't follow them exactly, and then it's always a disaster. So in terms of intuition, no, I don't have it.
Oh, I'm having more intuition right now than you are.
I think you are.
I'm the captain of this ship now. See, I knew that there was gonna be these challenges. I thought it'd be like quirky if they were bad. We need to soften the butter.
Yeah, that's what I appreciated about this recipe when I looked at it. I was like, I feel like there's more supportive details here than you usually see in recipes online. They're actually
they're like, because sometimes it's like, but how do you want me to do that?
right. Holly's mom is not doing that to us.
Oh, she would never.
Yeah.
We're adding brown sugar now.
So let's do a mix of light and dark sugar. That's my own personal touch. If we're gonna like.
Oh, we have a mixture.
Yes. But what would Holly's mom do?
Dude, she would fucking encourage you to switch it up and add your flavor, dude. Holly's mom would want you to add your touch.
So do we have a measuring cup?
No, we're eyeballing it, baby.
I mean, we can't give them to her now. Like,
What?
I was really hoping today would be the day that I like make cookies. They
Dude.
come out and it's like.
I resent this because I never questioned. I knew this would be ragtag, but I never questioned whether they'd be good or not.
It's me doubting myself, not you.
No, I don't feel doubted. I'm just saying, like, we're gonna do it.
Rub me to Tom Hanks and Holly Pirates moment.
Exactly.
That's like equivalent to a sister moment.
For sure.
We can all point to like the specific moments where there was the captain shift, where it's like,
I just like to hold eggs.
you're like, is that weird? We
I want to crack one egg.
Okay.
I'm the captain now.
a short captain switch.
Yes, it's quick captain swish. Fill up the spoon, the whole spoon?
Yeah.
Here's a little salty salt. I'll be Salt Bae. Holy shit, watch these turn out like great because you like were fine.
Yeah, dude.
No, wait, we forgot one key thing though. We were supposed to beat together.
No, we're still in the beat together phase.
Yeah, we didn't cream the butter and brown sugar.
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
No, but I heard the baking soda thing is like a problem.
Oh, because then it's like a science.
Yeah,
that's like
the
a science
chemistry.
potion.
This is another night in the course.
They're gonna taste like cookies.
Yeah, that's all that matters. How important is form really?
The medium is the message. Meaning these cookies are the message, so it actually reinforces your point. I'll tell you when. When?
I jumped like a little dog. This smells good.
Yeah.
We're gonna add a little innovation, add our own little flair, and maybe do the mini.
Just like Holly's mom would have wanted us to. And I just put all the dry stuff in the wet stuff. These look pretty good to me, ladies and gents.
that looks great. I'll film it. Yeah.
Oh,
No, because I don't. You should be the one.
no.
No, you did everything.
No, you should do it. So I can film and then you can feel like you did something.
I want the captain back.
All right. Captain's gonna go back to her post. How long?
We gotta ask Holly's mom.
And this is the portion of the show where we call Holly's mom.
I'm glad we're. No.
Can you make him in the microwave? Wait.
Yeah.
What if we put the foil on this?
Guys, can we put the foil on this? It was the whole arc in season 20. Like Tristan's gonna move to Boston. Like a Ouija's man.
Oh my god,
Like a
and
Ouija's
another
fan.
one.
And journal and take hikes.
That sounds
I'm
great.
gonna do that. What is existence when you're not connected to like the
No,
everything that is media?
literally. I think about that. Has anyone farted on Instagram Live before? In 11 minutes.
Well, they did turn out interesting. Let's go.
You're a fucking liar. What's it like to be a liar? We're just about done.
Cookies. This is the story of two sisters who, against all odds, made the cookies. Thanks for watching us make Holly's mom's cookies.
See you next time on Holly's Mom's Cookies.
And then we can start like munching on salads.
Yum.
Yes. Okay. Lightning round questions. Have you ever experienced a glitch in the simulation?
Yes, and I did a TikTok about it. My favorite
Yeah.
example is I went to a witch supply store with a friend, and we were kind of like looking for new stores, and we found one, and it was like right next to a McDonald's that I got a burger at right after. It was right by this weird like transportation hub, and you don't see this a lot now. Like it was like a bus station or something weird. I can't find that now, and it was the cutest store. Like it had the best supplies. It had like a big cauldron with like supplies in the middle. It was so cool. I can't find it on maps. I can't find it in real life. And this was like a couple years ago, and I can't find it. And I'm like, what happened? And I had a friend with me who witnessed the same thing, and she can't find it either.
Oh my gosh.
And then in the comments, people are like, is it this store? Is it this store? And I'm like, good guess, but no. It's the weirdest thing. I can't explain it.
You know what you experienced.
Yeah.
Which Kardashian are you?
I feel like I want to be Kim, but I'm really more Kourtney.
I totally get that. And what's your personal brand?
I feel like if I was going to be authentic about the things I was interested in, it would be like spooky but cute. But I don't think that's how I really come off. I feel like people think of me, they only think of like hot pink, Y2K, stuff like that.
Yeah, I love spooky but cute.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that the more we get to know you, that will become much more clear.
I hope so, because I feel like
Yeah.
I've never done a good job on my social media of like expressing that.
Yeah.
And the things that work for me, or the things that get the most engagement, are like the thumbnails where everything is pink.
Well, I think that was put on you from the era that you came up and the
Yeah.
kind of like blonde reality TV, like kind of stamp of whatever at the time, that aesthetic. But now like there's the democratizing of social media and the ownership we get to have of our images more,
Yeah.
and that truth can finally come through. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I just can't wait to see what else you have ahead of you.
And we come bearing gifts.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
we
so sweet.
We made your mom's oatmeal chocolate chip cookie recipe.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
yeah we got
That
stoned
sounds
last night
so
and did
good.
it.
Oh my God, I love that.
We have this little Disney meme game just for your love of Disney.
Yes.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I've never seen this. I love that.
Yeah.
I'll be posting these when I find like apropos ones for my day.
Oh yay.
I love that. Thanks, you guys.
Thank
That's so
you.
sweet.